On today's show,
we discuss the resilient Rockets Game 4 win and why the Warriors didn't call a timeout.
in Crossfire, what was the worst moment for Draymond? And who got snubbed from the all-defensive teams?
And we look ahead to tonight's pivotal Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals.
It's Wednesday, May 23rd. The starter starts now.
Good evening, sweet world, and welcome to The Starters, presented by Jack Daniel's Tennessee Honey. Whether you're joining us live right now on NBA TV, watching later on YouTube, maybe listening to the podcast, we're very happy to have you. I'm Jay Skeets, and alongside me, as always, that's Tess Mellis.
We up.
To his right, it's the international man of mystery, taking it to the max, Lee Ellis.
Friend.
Lily. And last, certainly not least, over yonder, that's the bearded one, that's Trey Kirby.
Ayo!
Yo! TK, what's poppin'?
Well, I'm here at the internet looking for your best tweets at #TheStarters. And if you've watched the show at all during the playoffs, you know that we've already had a whole bunch of Game 7s.
I mean, we make a lot of jokes about that Game 1, but they really need to go win that.
They say it's Game 7, baby.
A
lot of people say Game 2 is the new Game 7. It sounds like Game 3 is the new Game 7.
Whoa.
Was Game 4 the new Game 7? That brings us to Game 5, and we already know it's pivotal, but is Game 5 the new Game 7? Personally, I don't think so. It's got to stay pivotal, but you could make a case that in a tied series, Game 5 is the new Game 7 for the home team. They don't want to face elimination on the road, but we want you to hit up our Twitter page at The Starters, where we've got a poll up. You can vote in that very question. Is Game 5 the new Game 7? Get your votes in now. We'll check the results a little bit later. We got a big one tonight, very pivotal.
Yes, get your votes in.
Hugely pivotal.
Got a fun show, a pivotal show, I would say, here in the middle of the week for the starters.
On a
Tessa,
Wednesday.
Trey and I, will step into the crossfire to talk about the all-defensive teams and debate whether or not the NBA got them right. We got Lely's very solid play. We'll look ahead to the pivotal Game 5 in Boston between the Cavs and the Celtics, but let's start with a little true or false, looking back at last night's game, and boy, was it a good one. TK, you got the cues.
People thought the Southern Lawyer had retired for good, but last night he finally caught a case, and we had ourselves a game as the Rockets withstood a terrible start and a third-quarter Curry flurry to take home a huge Game 4 win. Mike D'Antoni said that was the highest level the Rockets have ever been at defensively. So true or false, the Rockets won that game with defense.
Yeah, they were the tougher, grittier team last night. This team that we talked about all year, they added PJ Tucker. Are they going to be that tough team in the postseason? Well, yeah, this is how they won that game. They were rugged. They could have fell apart when they were down 12-0 to start the game.
Yep.
When they went into the fourth quarter, down 10 points. But James Harden and Chris Paul had their postseason highs in minutes because I think they felt like this was their Game 7. They couldn't go down 3-1. And yeah, they toughed it out. I think it starts with defense. That same attitude. They won the turnovers battle, the fast break battle. Exactly how you win in this series. Every single team that's won wins those two categories.
It was effort and energy on the defensive end, which wasn't there in Game 3 from the Rockets. And they know that they couldn't afford to go down, as you mentioned, to go 3-1 back to Houston. They probably weren't going to win the series. But now they've given themselves a chance to beat the Warriors, and without just trying to outgun them, without just trying to outscore them, get into a track meet, because the Warriors will live with that. That's fine. But if the Rockets can actually show a way of making it tough for the Warriors on the offensive end, then it gives them a chance. I didn't feel that after that big flurry from Steph Curry in the third quarter, that the Warriors were able to really build on that and just bury their opponent, which we've seen them do in the past. The Rockets actually contested a lot of shots, made them very, very difficult, played some ISO ball with Kevin Durant there, and he wasn't knocking down those shots. And the Rockets, you could see it sort of fueled them. They thought, hey, we can actually come back from this. You know, this was an important moment for them. So that's a very, very important thing. I will say one thing, not to take away anything from Houston's game, fantastic performance. Golden State looked tired to me in that fourth quarter, and I know that the Rockets had a very short rotation as well, but a lot of those players for the Warriors, legs looked a bit heavy, the ball wasn't moving, they weren't moving around as much. Credit the Rockets defense, but I think that was also a factor.
Yeah, unbelievable to see the Warriors only with 12 points in the fourth quarter. Was it because they were tired? Was it because the defense was really locked in and playing for their season, basically, as Taz said, in the Rockets there, holding them to 16.7% in that fourth quarter shooting, the worst shooting quarter of the entire season for the Warriors. Unbelievable. First things first, thank you, basketball gods. Thank you, basketball gods, for a close, competitive game here in the conference finals.
We got one.
It had been a while. But I go with true. The defense won them this game. I was shocked. I, like a lot of people I think on Twitter, thought it was over for the Rockets a couple times in this game. You know, first off, they're coming off a Game 3 loss where they lost by 41 points. Then they're down 12-0 right away. It took them 5 or 6 minutes to even score in this game. A lot of teams, would just roll over and maybe die. They didn't. Then the Curry flurry. This happens when the Curry flurry, the avalanche that occurred in the third quarter again, where he goes for 17 points. He's hitting these crazy threes. The place is going nuts. The Oracle's rocking. I thought, well, that's a wrap. It's going to be 3-1, and the storyline will just be, can the Rockets survive and maybe give us a game 6? And they dug themselves out of the avalanche. I mean, they survived. The St. Bernard showed up. They dug their way out, and then they made it to the top of the mountain and planted a 2-2 flag. It was really incredible, and I think they proved or showed a lot of us that they have that fight in them, because we've seen hardened teams before. You know, they sort of, once they get punched in the mouth, they can roll over and die. Harden was great in the first half. Chris Paul was unbelievable in the second half. And then all those other guys, Tucker getting the boards, Ariza hitting some big shots, giving you defense. Gordon hit a timely 3 late. They all chipped in. There's only 7 of them playing. 6, basically, because Gerald Green only had 12 minutes.
6.5. We didn't even show you the James Harden defense, because we don't have time.
But it was crazy. It was crazy.
It was wild to see James Harden stripping Kevin Durant. Those two up top, Harden with that strip. I'm getting yelled in my ear. Next topic.
All right. Well, you know, you got
Oh, what's happening? We have time to talk about something.
But
If you speak it, the highlights will come.
This is leadership, though, from James Harden.
100%.
Like,
This is what you were talking about.
Exactly. He's making an effort on the defensive end and turning those into critical baskets for his team.
Yeah.
When you see your leader of the team do that, everyone else is like, well, we've got to do the same thing. So you mentioned he had a fantastic first half. Offensively wasn't as good in the second half, but that didn't detract from the game that he was playing and the momentum that he carried in and putting in that effort on the defensive end. Great performance.
Yeah, there is no doubt they won it with defense, because the Rockets themselves shot 2 for 9 in the final 6 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
You had that Gordon 3 at the top, and you had Harden blown by Looney for a left-hand layup. That was it. I mean, it was defense. They were getting the stops to pull this out. And again, an unbelievable victory, and now setting us up with a pivotal Game 5 back in Houston. Can't wait for that. All right, Trey, next one.
All right, everybody's an expert when it comes to coaching, and last night had the second guessers all riled up. Late in the fourth, Warriors grab a board and push it, trying to catch the Rockets in a scramble. Ball ends up in Klay Thompson's hands. No timeout from the Warriors, despite the fact they had one in their pocket. Klay forces up a shot. There are some shenanigans. The game is over. The Warriors tried to get one, but true or false, the Warriors should have called a timeout.
Where's Stan Van Gundy when you need him? Really, that's what it comes down to. Like, write your story when the ball's in the air.
Well,
Because-
they tried to call a timeout.
Well, yeah, but that wasn't their first call. Their first call was to let the play go and
Yeah.
see if they get a good shot. And Kevin Durant kind of had an opportunity there, but he passed on that, and then they sort of had to scramble at the end. But if Steve Kerr calls a timeout and they get a play and they go on to win the game, he looks like a genius. But if he calls a timeout and they miss and they lose, then it's like, maybe you shouldn't have called that timeout. It's right there. He had a chance to at least rise up for a clean
right
shot.
here they
People
have a
want the
chance to call
timeout
a
in the
timeout.
corner, though, right? That's
Yeah,
what people
no,
want the
I know.
timeout.
They're trying to call the timeout then, but that was like, at that point, that was their second option, because their first option was like, the scrambled defense, hopefully someone will get a clean shot, and that didn't happen.
The craziest part to me is that Kevin Durant didn't keep the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, he gave it to Klay in a tough position as it was. That side of the court was totally loaded. There was too many bodies over there as it was. I just couldn't believe Durant. I'm fine with KD bringing it up here. You know, the defense is not set. What are we doing? You got KD, one of the best isolation scorers maybe of all time. That was the shocking part, that he just decided to pass it into Klay again in a tough spot. Good Ariza defense there, a little handsy, got away with it though, and that was the game basically.
Yeah, I think the internet generally is quite angry and loves hindsight. But in this instance, I think they were comfortable with the same thing that we're all comfortable with. Just go down and try and get the defense caught off guard a little bit. And they weren't angry at Steve Kerr. I was surprised to see the internet not too mad. But, you know, when there's 7 seconds left and Klay is caught in the corner and KD puts him in a tough spot and Sean Livingston is in the post area for some reason, it didn't really make sense that he was there.
Right.
Then I think you got to call a timeout.
Yeah.
It was very odd to see not only this play, but the fourth quarter, as we said. This could be the worst quarter in the Kevin Durant era of the Warriors.
Right.
I mean, 12 points in the fourth quarter was odd, and they looked discombobulated on that play. And yet, I think most of us expected to see a KD over LeBron like Game 3 in the 2017 Finals shot attempt. You know,
Yeah.
just come down and let her rip, and then he decided to throw to Klay, and
Once
and
Klay
the
gets
whole
it
quarter
and
was
pump
off.
fake, once Klay gets the ball there and he pump fakes and Ariza doesn't
Yeah.
bite and there's nothing, that's when the timeout should occur. And it did look like Draymond Green was trying to call for it. And
Yeah.
apparently Kerr wanted that. That was fine. And they missed it. But yeah, I'm just more shocked that KD didn't take the shot. I mean, either take him off the dribble or just pull up and splash a 3 over whoever's on him. Maybe he can shoot over everybody.
Because that's the thing about the timeout is, if you call a timeout, you might not be able to get the ball into his hands. At that play, it was in
his hands.
Yeah,
Yeah.
guy's hand. He's going forward. He had that shot, but I guess he was a little too unselfish. a little too unselfish in that
Yeah.
play. Yeah, because
That works.
Yeah,
I think his teammates were really surprised too.
Yeah.
I mean,
possible.
they seemed sort of off guard.
All right, Trey, final one.
Last night's Rockets win was their first in Golden State in the playoffs since James Harden came to town. The series is tied 2-2, even though most people thought this thing was a wrap. I guess Mike D'Antoni was right. The pressure was on the Warriors all along. Game 5 will surely be pivotal, but true or false? The Rockets are now the favorites in the Western Conference Finals.
Favorites.
Yeah, I don't think so. But that's because I picked the Warriors. So to me, going into Game 5 is similar to going into Game 1. I mean, the Rockets have home court just like they did in Game 1, and there's a pattern in this series. Warriors win, Rockets come back. Warriors win, Rockets come back. So it would feel like, to me, I mean, the Warriors are the slight favorites, yeah.
Yeah, but Iguodala is still a question mark going into Game 5, and maybe even Klay Thompson as well. So
banging
that, to
his
me, is going to make Game 5 massively pivotal.
Do you think the Warriors truly missed Iguodala
Yes,
in this game?
for sure they
You
did,
buy
yeah.
that even though they have all the talent there still in that
Yeah,
squad?
I mean, he's a very, very important part of their
Yep.
team. He's been starting in this series, and they just miss him out on the floor. Defensively, they miss him. Offensively, he can take a little bit of the heat off Steph as well. So, you know, any team loses one of their key starting 5 players, they're going to feel the effects. I mean, Warriors still had a chance to win, so it's not an excuse, but they definitely missed him.
Yeah.
But Clay's 100% playing, and everybody is
Yeah, he
banged
might-
up
yeah.
to some degree. Chris
Yeah.
Paul's dragging a foot.
Yeah. I think I go false on this question, though, because both teams have just proven that they have the ability to win on the road. We've already seen it. So why can't the Warriors win another one? Why couldn't the Rockets even come back and win Game 6? These are both great teams. I just hope we get some more close games, because that was a lot more fun than talking about the blowouts. Let's hear from you guys, though. True or false to those 3 questions? We got to take a break. When we come back, Trey and I step into the crossfire to debate the biggest all-defensive team snubs and tonight's Survivor winner. What?
Welcome to Crossfire, presented by TISO. The Studio V rules 3 rounds to determine who will be holding this belt for the next week. Challenger, are you ready? Champion, are you ready? Round number 1. The 2 all-defensive teams were announced today. Let's take a look at these defensive stalwarts. Starting with Rudy Gobert, Anthony Davis, Victor Oladipo, Drew Holiday, and Robert Covington comprising the first team. The second team, Joel Embiid, Draymond Green, Al Horford, DeJounte Murray, and Jimmy Butler. All right, great names. But you guys know your defense. What was the biggest surprise from those 2 teams? Here we go.
I'm honestly surprised that Al Horford didn't make the first team all-defense. You got Rudy Gobert, Joel Embiid are your centers, fair enough, but Al Horford is listed as a forward on the all-defense team, just like Anthony Davis is. Al Horford has been the #1 guy on the #1 defense all season long, so if he's eligible as a forward, sorry, Bobby Cubs, give me Al Horford.
Yeah, but Al Horford
okay.
is at least on one of the teams.
True.
So, and in the end of the day, no one really cares whether you were first team or second team all
I
defense.
bet Al Horford
You were
cares.
all defense. I know. I bet you Al Horford doesn't care.
Yeah, you're
He's
right.
such
He's
a nice guy.
He's
This is
genuine.
why I go with Heat swingman Josh Richardson as a snub, not making any of these teams. He was a superb defender for the Heat all season long. They were a top 10 defense. He was their key lockdown guy. You would put him on the best offensive player. 121 steals, 75 blocks. That's amazing from the 6'6" position like that. I got to go with Josh Richardson as a snub.
I guess one guy who would care about being on the first or second team, Tony Allen. First team all defense.
That's
Also
fair.
true.
All right.
Fair.
Round
Don't help
number
him out.
2 here. Draymond Green had a good Game 4, but he was caught in a couple places that he didn't want to be caught in, underneath James Harden for a jam, and then a hitch in the rim a little bit on a dunk. The question, what was the more embarrassing Draymond play, the dunk or the non-dunk? Here we go.
It was the non-dunk. The botch dunk for sure. That's way worse. That's way worse. I mean, he's looking, for the old ones out there, he looked like an extra in the Sprite commercial.
Draymond Green drinks Sprite?
Yeah, no, he doesn't. Because he just got denied there. This came after he got dunked on too, so it only made his night worse. That was a key moment in the game too. I mean, they eventually scored on that possession, but that's 2 points he left on the board from him. It's gotta be that. Botch
You
dunk.
guys might prefer getting dunked on to getting crossed over, but not me. That's why Draymond getting dunked on is way more embarrassing. I mean, doing your job right, super embarrassing. Trying hard to be the best defender you can, embarrassing. Applying yourself, giving full effort to what your coach wants, being there to get dunked on, super duper embarrassing. Who gives up 2 points like that? It's just terrible, you know?
All right, final round. We'll decide it here. We're talking Survivor, guys. We're honestly talking about Survivor.
Good.
Now,
About time.
we're all winners because this is the final time we'll be talking about it this season. But you guys tell me, who is going to win the Survivor finale tonight? Here we go.
Well, Taz, as you know, Wendell and Dominic, no doubt, are the favorites, but I'm smelling it up, and I hear Laurel. Laurel. That's right. She's been playing both sides. She's friends with
I hear
anybody.
you,
She's
Andy.
made no enemies. She knows who has the idols. She knows she needs to make a big move. Almost made one last week, but waited out. As Lee Ellis would say, that is a very solid play by Laurel.
Are you kidding me? You know it's a
Laurel.
two-man race. You know it's between Dominic and Wendell. My heart says Wendell. My head says Dominic. I think Dom pulls this out. I really do. Will he turn on Wendell before he gets to the final
he's
four?
flipping.
They both have secret idols. They both know they have idols.
So does Laurel.
What's gonna happen here? It's gotta be Dom. Laurel's not gonna win.
So you
I'm
got
sorry.
Donovan?
Yanni has a better
Donathan?
chance of
You're
winning.
guessing Donathan.
I didn't know Hank Azaria was on Survivor. All right, the winner and new
Oh, call me
champion, Jay
Dominic.
Skeets.
I might win Survivor tonight, too. Shout out to Jeff Probst. Shout out to Spencer Bledsoe's dad, who works here at Turner Sports. I just learned that yesterday. It was very exciting for me. When we come back, though, can the Cavs finally win a game in Boston? We'll get you all set for tonight's pivotal Game 5 of the East Finals.
The Starters is brought to you by Jack Daniel's Tennessee Honey, official partner of the NBA.
Game 5 between the Cavs and Celtics tonight on ESPN. This one tied at 2 games apiece. LeBron coming in, Al Horford, who definitely doesn't care whether he's first or second team all defense, arriving to the big game. So let's look ahead to this one, set it up for everybody. Trey, you got the big cue heading into Game 5.
Huge cue. Celtics 9-0 at home so far this postseason. The pivotal Game 5 is in the TD Garden. So guys, tell me, can the Cavs win in Boston? No one else can.
I think both teams are looking at this game like a Game 7. Yeah, let's call this a Game 7.
Oh, yeah.
It feels that way. And I think the Cavs surely could win this one. I think we're finally, because they're going to be looking at it as a Game 7, going to get a close one. Hey, we got a close one last night. It should happen here. And in a close game, I'm picking one man. I'm picking LeBron James. It feels like we're destined to have a LeBron shot in the last minute when we got a close game, and we had buzzer beater in both series so far from LeBron. And I'm not predicting a buzzer beater, but hey, let's get some shots in the last minute with LeBron. You know, in a one-possession game, we haven't had that in the fourth quarter in this series. I think we're just going to have a close one, and that's why I picked the Cavs in this series, because it feels like they've got the closer in a close game.
But in order to get a close game and a possible potential big shot from LeBron, he's going to need some help like he had in Cleveland. The other Cavs, the supporting players, he needs Love to have a good game. He needs George Hill to be aggressive right from the get-go. If they drop underneath like they did in Cleveland, the Celtics defense, he's got to take those shots and attack the rim. JR, Kyle Korver, if they show up, if they travel a little bit, if they packed well, then I do like the Cavs' chances to finally win on the road here. But without them, LeBron could go for 50 and they could still lose.
Yeah.
That's still in play to me. He needs some help as we've seen all playoffs long.
Well, that's the thing, because he ran out of gas in Game 2, really, in Boston. Like, he had that incredible first half. He was on pace for 50, over 50, in fact. But he ran out of steam because he put so much effort in and no one else really gave him that support. I picked Boston to win this series in 7. After 2 games, I think I said they're going to win in 5. They're looking fantastic. I'm certainly less convinced now than I was after those first 2 games that the Celtics are still the better team. And so tonight is going to be really interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing the young guys, as always, Tatum and Brown and Rozier. Are these guys still able to maintain that incredible high level that they've played with all series? Or will, now that the pressure that they have to win tonight, will that sort of start to weigh on them a little bit? Because this is LeBron's time where, you know, we talk about all those role players and that, but LeBron could still just control this game from both ends of the floor and carry his team home. So it should really be a close one. It has to be.
Yeah, there were some silver linings. We talked about it on last night's show that the Celtics can take from Game 4, even though they lost it. I mean, they just dug themselves such a deep hole there when they were down in the first quarter, but then they outplayed them. They outplayed the Cavs 49-43 in the second half. We talked about all the missed layups and the missed dunks, 15 in total in Game 4. You can't imagine that's going to happen in Beantown. And they did force turnovers. I mean, LeBron 3 times in this series has had 6+ turnovers in a game. Marcus Smart, I thought, was key in Game 4 there when they were trying to get back into it, of just maybe fatigue a little bit, but deflecting balls and going the other way with the Celtics. They could use some easy baskets, as we know. So if they can keep up some of these things, there are some key things that I think they can take from Game 4 as they go back.
100%,
So I
yeah.
think I agree with you guys. I think, again, to the basketball gods, I think we do get another close one. But yeah, it's tough to pick against LeBron in a close game. So I'm going to go Cavs like by 3 or 4 here tonight.
One other good thing Celtics did, you said you wondered if they traveled well. I heard they used the rolling technique in their suitcase. I know in your household you use the rolling technique.
Absolutely right. You can get a lot more in your bag.
Yeah,
You
roll
don't-
those
don't
shirts.
Fold, don't fold, roll.
Less
Yeah.
wrinkles,
Hey,
too.
you can do it with your dresser drawers too. Scrub just blew your mind.
Vertical storage, it's the wave of the future.
Thank you.
KonMari.
Thank you, Trey. When we come back, Lily hits us with the very solid play. Don't go anywhere.
I sleep in her.
Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals on ESPN tonight. This one all tied up at 2 games apiece. And we asked you, is Game 5 the new Game 7 or does it remain pivotal? And here are our poll results.
60% of people say, nah, it's pivotal. So I guess it's pivotal. This is the one game that is not Game 7, though shout out to Kinetic Force on Twitter who said every game is Game 7. That's the kind of spirit I'm looking for.
All right. Lily, very solid play. Who gets it, my man?
Yes, obviously, there's only one game to choose from, and it's Chris Paul
which
here.
team gets it?
Yeah, the Rockets. Chris Paul here with a Shane Warne, not a leggy though. Look at that. That's critical here to notice the difference. This is actually the flipper. It goes on straight. It doesn't really bend. He bends it, but it doesn't bend when it hits the ground there.
That's
It goes
so
on straight
sexy
on.
though, man. That's
Yeah,
gonna be
little
in the
pump
top
fake
10.
party. But hey, that's what I call a very solid.
Oh, Laurel gotcha. Good luck to Laurel on Survivor tonight. All right.
Guys, we had a wedgie. What? A baseball wedgie. Tigers, Twins, top of the first leadoff hitter. That's Brian Dozier going deep. Oh, cheeky play by Martin, not going after it
Yep.
right away. That means it's a ground rule double. Hey, we got
That's a little baseball in there.
39 on the season. Shout out to Dave Parker. Fan of the night goes to this Warriors fan behind Stephen A. Smith during his ESPN hit. Is a Warriors fan long after the game is over, still upset.
Oh, I can't believe it.
Ah, man.
He's taking it hard. It's all right,
Everyone is
man.
gone. Go home, man.
It's a best of 3 series, man. You'll be all right. All right, that's it for us tonight. Enjoy Game 5. Enjoy the Survivor finale. We'll see you at 6:30 p.m. tomorrow.
Thanks for joining us, folks. And remember, pivotal.
Pivotal Survivor finale. Brace the night, people.